Have you ever felt trapped in the endless search for approval, as if every comment or judgmental look could define your worth? In the midst of this reality, faith in God emerges as a light capable of breaking the shadows of self-sufficiency and transforming the way we view life. This video invites you to abandon the fleeting expectations of the world and rediscover the true freedom that comes from sincere dependence on Jesus and the transforming power of the Holy Spirit. Here, every challenge and trial is seen as an opportunity for spiritual renewal. From exclusive trust in God to the vital importance of the Holy Spirit, each reflection offers insights that encourage self-knowledge and inner transformation, using inspiring narratives and examples that go beyond simply repeating concepts. By placing our trust exclusively in God, we discover a firm and transformative refuge, capable of transcending the uncertainties of everyday life. This surrender invites us to abandon self-sufficiency and recognize that true strength reveals itself in an intimate relationship with the divine. In the midst of challenges, faith in Jesus shines as a guiding light, leading us safely through the darkness. When we choose to base our existence on the constancy of divine love, we free ourselves from the need for human approval, and every difficulty becomes an opportunity to grow spiritually, allowing peace and hope to fill the voids left by the world's fleeting expectations. The testimony of biblical figures teaches us that true dependence on God breaks down barriers and transforms lives. Just like the widow of Zarephath, who with faith multiplied the little she had, we learn that trust in the Most High can convert even the most arid situations into experiences of abundance and renewal. Other sacred narratives reinforce that renouncing self-sufficiency is the first step towards a full and meaningful life. This surrender does not imply abdicating our responsibilities, but rather recognizing that divine guidance offers us a safer and more harmonious direction. By aligning our steps with God's will, we experience a peace that goes beyond earthly circumstances, while the practice of prayer and meditation becomes the channel for receiving wisdom and discernment, strengthening our faith even in moments of fragility. Trusting exclusively in God is, therefore, an invitation to transform our lives, replacing insecurity with hope and despair with renewal. Every small experience can reveal a miracle when the heart is open to the action of the Holy Spirit, propelling us to walk with courage, certain that our security and strength reside in the constant presence of the Creator. When we incessantly seek validation from others, we fall into a trap that keeps us from authentic spiritual freedom. This constant search traps us in a cycle of insecurity, where the opinion of others replaces the truth of divine love. Jesus invites us to rediscover our identity in the constancy of God's love, showing that true approval comes from a relationship with the Creator and not from the fleeting expectations of the world. By surrendering our hearts to the divine, we learn to recognize that external validation is ephemeral, transforming every temporary criticism or praise into a reminder of the strength that resides in our faith. This perspective frees us to live more authentically, where inner peace does not depend on human approval. Several biblical stories illustrate that true freedom manifests itself when we abandon the need to be accepted by everyone. Just as the widow of Zarephath demonstrated courage by trusting in her faith, we are challenged to find security in our relationship with God, overcoming the ephemeral judgments of this world. By giving up the incessant search for acceptance from others, we make space for a deeper and more sincere trust, allowing the Holy Spirit to guide each step and transform challenges into opportunities for growth. Understanding that men's approval is fleeting allows us to redirect our energy to what really matters: the intimate relationship with the divine, transforming each obstacle into an invitation to reaffirm our trust in divine providence. Staying focused on Jesus is like adjusting the internal compass that guides our spiritual journey through the storms of life. By directing our attention to the example and teachings of Christ, we discover an inexhaustible source of hope, which drives us to overcome challenges and transform obstacles into lessons for growth. When we turn our gaze to Jesus, we set aside the need to please others and seek instead an authentic connection with the divine. This practice strengthens us, as each act of faith becomes a firm step towards an inner transformation, where the love and wisdom of the Holy Spirit inspire us to act with courage and determination. Jesus' example invites us to cultivate an intimacy that goes beyond the superficiality of human expectations. By investing time in prayer, meditation, and study of the divine word, we build a deep relationship that guides us even in the most uncertain moments, strengthening our conviction and allowing us to see the presence of God in every detail of everyday life. Maintaining a focus on Jesus also implies recognizing that difficulties are opportunities to improve our spirituality. Even when the path appears dry, the light of Christ reveals new horizons, teaching us to transform adversity into a springboard for renewed faith, which sustains each challenge with confidence. The story of the widow of Zarephath profoundly illustrates how faith can transform reality, even when resources seem scarce. In his example, we see that trust in God transcends material limitations, allowing little to become abundance through a sincere surrender to the divine. By trusting in divine provision, this widow broke the illusion of self-sufficiency and demonstrated that true security lies in dependence on the Almighty. His example inspires us to abandon the search for external validation and embrace the transformation that occurs when we place our faith in the power of the Holy Spirit. In addition to its practical impact, the narrative of the widow of Zarephath invites us to value each small gesture of faith, remembering that each act, no matter how small, can trigger miracles when carried out with the heart turned towards God. This lesson teaches us to value authenticity and the courage to trust in the divine, transforming moments of scarcity into opportunities for spiritual growth and renewal. When we trust only in our own abilities, we fall into the trap of self-sufficiency, forgetting that true strength emerges from dependence on the Creator. The illusion that we can meet all our needs without divine help distances us from the security that only God can offer. Jesus teaches that abandoning pride and recognizing our vulnerability is the first step to a fulfilling life. When we stop seeking validation in our own efforts, we open the way to a faith that connects us directly to the source of all wisdom and love. The Holy Spirit acts as a guide who reminds us that every challenge is an opportunity to experience the transformation that comes from total surrender. This shift in perspective allows us to realize that true fulfillment lies not in demonstrating self-sufficiency, but in recognizing our need for the divine. Demystifying self-dependence involves renouncing pride and embracing an attitude of humility and gratitude. Thus, like the various biblical accounts that illustrate the transformation of those who have completely given themselves to God, we are invited to put aside the illusion of independence, to live a life of authenticity and faith. Recognizing the myth of self-dependence is opening space for a spiritual journey based on surrender and trust in the Almighty, transforming our limitations into opportunities for divine grace to work miracles in our lives. When we place our hope in human plans, we are often faced with disappointments that leave scars on our hearts. These frustrated expectations reveal the limitation of trusting only in earthly solutions and invite us to rethink our spiritual foundations. Every disappointment can be turned into an opportunity to strengthen faith. By abandoning the search for men's approval, we learn to direct our trust towards the eternal, finding in Jesus words that guarantee that divine love remains immutable, even in the face of human failures. Disillusionments serve to remind us that true security lies not in our own plans, but in the wisdom and care of the Creator. The Holy Spirit guides our steps so that we can see beyond immediate obstacles, transforming each experience, however bitter, into an invitation to deepen our dependence on the divine. In the midst of frustrations, we are called to renew our commitment to faith, converting discouragement into a path of self-knowledge and spiritual growth, where each unfulfilled expectation becomes a seed for future hope. When we understand that God's promises transcend the limitations of human projects, we find a peace that overcomes any disappointment, redirecting our efforts towards what is truly perennial. Although human relationships are sources of support and affection, they have inherent limitations that do not always meet our deepest spiritual needs. Friendship, however sincere it may be, often reveals the fragility of depending exclusively on earthly ties, highlighting the impermanence of human approvals. The story of friendship between emblematic figures, such as Jonathan and David, illustrates that even the most loyal bonds present barriers to full realization. These relationships, although rich in emotion and loyalty, do not replace the solidity of trust based on the divine, where security is constant and eternal. When we see the limitations of interpersonal relationships, we are invited to seek a connection that goes beyond the ephemeral. Jesus teaches that true strength and security are found in dependence on the Most High, making room for an authentic and transformative faith. This reflection leads us to recognize that, although human ties enrich us emotionally, it is in communion with God that we find unshakable support, and the Holy Spirit guides us to value each relationship for what it can teach, without forgetting that plenitude and consolation are only achieved in the presence of the divine. By understanding the limitations of earthly bonds, we are challenged to build an intimate and sustainable relationship with God, freeing ourselves from exclusive dependence on human relationships and allowing our spiritual journey to be guided by a love and trust that transcend the fleeting and are anchored in the eternal. The unbridled search for riches and material validation seduces by offering a fleeting feeling of security and success. However, by placing our faith in possessions, we run the risk of moving away from what is truly perennial. Often, the shine of possessions and social recognition mask an empty reality, incapable of filling the gaps within us. Jesus warns of the danger of placing hope in the accumulation of goods, remembering that true freedom and satisfaction arise when we surrender to the divine, leaving behind the search for human approval. The example of the rich young man, cited in biblical narratives, illustrates how obsession with riches can divert the heart from the essence of faith. When we prioritize material goods, we miss the opportunity to experience the abundance that comes from trusting in God's love, which transforms little into countless blessings and sustains the soul in adversity. Recognizing that the world's approval is fleeting invites us to reevaluate our values and direct our efforts towards what is eternal. The Holy Spirit guides us to understand that true wealth lies in surrender to the divine, strengthening our spiritual journey and teaching us to find satisfaction in sources that never run out. Abandoning the trap of riches and material approval is, therefore, opening space for a life of fullness and authenticity, where each step towards sincere dependence on God frees us from earthly illusions, allowing us to experience the peace and abundance that only divine love can offer. The deserts of life present themselves as periods of trial and introspection, where each challenge reveals the fragility of our own plans. In these phases, faith in God becomes the foundation that sustains us, transforming the aridity of difficult moments into fertile soil for spiritual growth. In the midst of adversity, the desert experience invites us to abandon self-sufficiency and open our hearts to divine renewal. Jesus shows that even in the solitude of the deserts, the presence of the Most High is constant and capable of transforming desolation into hope, guiding us towards a new perspective. Each trial thus becomes an opportunity to exercise resilience and strengthen our trust in God's providence, while the Holy Spirit acts as a beacon that illuminates our paths, revealing that even when the journey seems endless, spiritual rebirth is real. Crossing the desert requires courage and dedication, challenging us to abandon the comfort of human certainties and recognize the lessons that each difficulty provides us. In this way, the desert reveals itself as a scenario where divine grace works miracles, transforming moments of pain into testimonies of overcoming and unshakable faith. The Holy Spirit is the living presence that guides and renews us at each moment of the journey. As comforter and mentor, He illuminates the paths of faith, helping us to discern between the illusions of the world and the eternal truth of God's love. Its actions transform moments of doubt into opportunities for spiritual growth, strengthening our trust in divine providence. By welcoming the influence of the Holy Spirit, we open space for an inner renewal that frees us from self-sufficiency, allowing us to hear the divine voice that whispers wisdom and guides our daily decisions. This presence is like a compass that directs our hearts towards truth and unconditional love. In the midst of turbulence, He inspires us to maintain focus on the essence of faith, remembering that true strength lies in surrender to the divine and not in material achievements or the passing approval of men. Counting on the Holy Spirit means having a constant ally in the transformation of our lives, encouraging us to abandon the bonds of self-confidence and cultivate an intimate relationship with God, where each guidance becomes a step towards achieving our spiritual purposes. Ultimately, the importance of the Holy Spirit transcends simple comfort. He is the link that unites our existence with the wisdom and eternal love of the Creator, transforming the deserts of existence into fields of hope and blessings. As we walk this journey, we are invited to rethink our priorities and recognize that true freedom does not lie in fleeting approval or self-sufficiency, but in sincere surrender to God. From exclusive trust in the Almighty to the vital guidance of the Holy Spirit, each reflection reveals that, even in the face of deserts and challenges, it is possible to transform little into abundance and live a full life. This video invites us to abandon the constraints of human expectations and connect deeply with the divine, finding in faith the foundation to overcome obstacles and renew hope. Allow yourself to embrace this transformation, rediscovering that each difficulty can be the beginning of a new beginning based on the eternal love and wisdom of Jesus. May this journey of self-knowledge and surrender inspire each step of your path, leading you to an experience of true communion with God, where the desert becomes a temple of spiritual renewal. If you felt inspired by this message, Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content that can transform your journey and deepen your faith.